Dear Gratitude, an Anthology is
With over 50 different perspectives and stories on gratitude, this book captures what most books don't. The secret sauce is in the number of voices and stories where you'll be sure to find a personal connection to so many as I did. A really excellent book, David Freeman. Found exclusively on Amazon.com.
Hi, I'm Chris Palmore, and this is a birthday gratitude episode. And I've got my friend, longtime friend Lee, up in New York, and we're going to ask him in. Hey, Lee, your microphone is off.
No, it's not. It's on. You were mistaken. That icon was messing up your sensory effect. Yeah, it's good.
Okay. Hey, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great, Chris. Nice to see you again.
Good to see you too. I see you decided to switch places there at the end.
Yeah, well, the other background is like super chaotic, and I don't usually take my calls there. I just wasn't thinking straight. It was first thing in the morning.
Good deal, brother. So your birthday's coming up, and this was an excuse for us to chit chat. You know, I love to start these off by thinking about the pre-gratitude. Obviously we're friends, we have a long time friendship, but I'm thinking how did I like to give gratitude to how we met, or talk about what are the elements in that. So do you want to speak to that, and then I can speak to that too? Do you have good memory of those
Sentient
things?
Bean? I believe it was the Sentient Bean, was it not? Or was it Parker's? I think it was Savannah, Georgia, regardless. But yeah, we were working together at a, what do you call it, a convenience store, like the gourmet convenience store. It was like the happening place of Savannah, Georgia. And I was a college student. You were recently a college graduate, and I don't know, we just had a similar style. We just we're hanging out. I think we also had the night shift. Did you have the night shift? I had the night shift.
Yeah, I did some night shifts. Yeah.
So we just naturally gravitated toward each other, and then several hundred coffee dates later, and you moved out of Savannah. I moved out of Savannah. I went back to New York. You went home to Kentucky, right?
No. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I was back to Kentucky. That was the first step. You stayed in Georgia a little bit longer than me too, didn't you?
I can't remember who left first. That's a good question. Maybe you did leave first. We definitely left very close to similar times. Maybe you did leave before me, though. I'm trying to. It's been so. I mean, geez, we're talking. When did you? Is it 2004 or 6? What I'm getting the years confused.
I was 7, so yeah, it was a long time ago.
You were 7?
No, I was 7. Yeah, that was 2007, Chris. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That was before the marriage and the 2 kids, so it was definitely a long time ago.
Yeah, I can't remember if we met at the coffee shop or it was Parker's. I just know that obviously us hanging out and working at Parker's is what kind of allowed us to be around each other enough to realize that we enjoyed each other's company. And then we started getting coffee and hanging out, and and here we are 14 years later.
And every time we meet, coffee.
Yeah. I've got my coffee, and speaking to, I'm just grateful. I think about Savannah. I think about where I was living, and the Parker's was right behind me, and I was very grateful to be able to just kind of work there part time between doing other things. It was a very relaxed environment where I could just make a little extra money and meet some cool people. And I think of Savannah, honestly, I don't keep in touch with. You and I talk. I think I've talked to maybe one other person that I met in Savannah, maybe 2, since I talked to you last year.
Oh wow. Okay. So,
well. You know what I mean? So there we go.
Yeah, I have a couple of friends that are like family now who I talk to from Georgia, but majority of relationships didn't last. Obviously, we were young.
Right. Well, actually, I left out another friend. My buddy Coco's been helping me. Justin. I know you met him.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's actually. They're pregnant with a second baby, which is cool. So he's going to have his second child soon, but he's been helping me do some of the gratitude material work that I've been putting together for we haven't talked in a long time. So there's a hospital in Savannah. This is kind of a cool thing. And then we'll get more on you. So my book came out, and one of the people I work with actually mailed the book to her daughter, and her daughter runs a department at a hospital in Savannah. And her daughter, because she read the book, was started asking her questions like started asking herself, how can we initiate gratitude into this hospital? So the cool thing is, because she had that thought, because again, these little things, right? The book comes out, her mom buys the book, gives it to her, she reads it, she has a thought in her head. The next thing you know, I'm having a conversation with her, and we start to put together these ideas of gratitude practices that are going to be implemented in the hospital. So this is all in the last like 3 months. So fast forward 3 months, I'm actually going to be mailing her, the postcards, which are one of the things. But then there's these things called gratitude stickies. So getting back to what Justin made for me. So these are basically, this is like a gratitude practice. So the cool thing is you get the different colors, and you get 25 days of them. And then what you do is you write what you're grateful for, and you stick it to the wall. It becomes gratitude art. So it becomes supposed to like just writing what you're grateful for and never looking at it again. You're actually building a piece of artwork on the wall. So the only reason I'm telling you that is because I'm sending these to her because she's going to implement it with the staff. And then that's going to be implemented. The sticky's going to be like implemented into to the patients that have to be at the hospital or on lockdown. It's going to be part of like when the nurses come around, they're going to give them these, and then they're going to be building a wall. So anyways, back to Justin. He's the one that helped me format the stickies. Very good man.
That's awesome. Gratitude came to my life because of it. Once it came into your life, what was that? I feel like it was 8 years ago, maybe? No, 7. I don't know. But I remember when your mother first passed away, we first reconnected, and we found out that it was also the anniversary of your mother's death was also my birthday, and it really sparked a lot of interest in me to sort of go through this dialogue with you about what gratitude means. And for the first time, it was my first time ever understanding it. And since then, I'm glad that we had this conversation, because it's allowed me to get through a lot of the stress of my life, just being able to stay grateful when things may seem less than grateful worthy.
Appreciate that, man. Yeah, with gratitude, it's and I thinking back, I appreciate you going through that. Yeah, I remember it was 2014. My mom passed away April of 2014, so it would have been later that year, that or early 2015 is when I started the when I started the website, and that's when you and I probably chatted about. We were just banking ideas, and I was trying to get you were helping me creatively with just some of my ideas and where to go with all these thoughts and everything. I remember you connected me to a friend of yours, I believe Alex, who ended up giving me some nice, he just kind of helped me with some different things too. But speaking to what with gratitude, the amazing thing is like, even in, I was thinking about this recently. I actually did a video called Gratitude Confessionals. So I'm starting to like think about this, like normally when there's like really big stress in life or something bad happens or whatever you want to call bad, right? It's because of a lot of real good things are going on. You know what I mean? Like my simplicity in this was, a couple weeks ago, Rosie and I went grocery shopping for like 4 hours. We went to 3 or 4 different places, and it was just tiring, right? And I was just tired. Like it started to get a little nervy just because of going to all the different places, and just my mind, I was just kind of exhausted about the whole thing. But what I realized when I took a breath and looked back at it, I was like, well, the reason I'm exhausted is, one, I have time. Okay, so think about this. How many things are working for me to be exhausted right now, right? Like, I have time to go shopping. I have a car to take me there. I have money to pick up groceries. I live in a country that there's food. You know what I mean? Like all these things that are complete blessings are leading to me feeling this way. And the cool thing about that idea is that if you redirect your thoughts, you can get out of that. You can, at least what you're doing is you're lowering that level and realizing, oh, okay, because it's redirection. It's like, okay, I'm feeling this way. You're analyzing it, right? But you're analyzing it through gratitude. You're going, I'm feeling this way because I have so many good things going on for me. Because think about it, flip it. What would be the flip of this? Okay, I don't have any money. I can't get food. I'm hungry. You know what I mean? Like, that's a problem. That's something to be frustrated about.
I just had the same conversation with my daughter just this morning, because they have this game that they practice for social emotional learning for children now in school. They call it Rose, Thorn, Bud. And the idea is that you pick something that made you really happy in the past few days, something that you're looking forward, something that made you a little upset, and something you're looking forward to. And she went through and found 2 things that she was upset instead of something she was looking forward to. And I said, well, why don't you take that thing that you're upset and think about why you're upset? It's because you wanted something, right? Well, the whole point of the activity was to talk about something you were looking forward to. So instead of worrying about something that you don't have right now, think about something that you will have in the future, something that you can look forward to. And it's the same thought of I wanted or I didn't have, which was the thought of, look, this is something I do have and I'm grateful for. And I think, yeah, mindfulness, being aware of what brought you to that position and all the other things that are going on that allow you to be in that position will give you perspective. You need that. You need that.
Yeah, I've got my second book coming out actually on your birthday.
Wow, congratulations.
Thanks, man. It's called Dear 2020, Letters to a World That Changed, Letters to a Year That Changed Everything. So I had there's over 40 people that wrote letters to the year 2020. And it's straight up a book about perspective. That's why maybe, it's what's the quote? Emma's quote. She said, life's too short to write away a whole year. You know what I mean? Like, and it's, but it's a book about perspective, and it's the, bottom line is like every day has its ups and downs, period. Right? Like life is not like a stagnant line. Life literally, this is life, it's not, and I wouldn't want a life like this, honestly, but that's a whole other discussion. But, it's, at the end of the day, we get to decide what we want to remember, what we want to learn from, what we reflect on, right? Like, so at the end of any given day, you could sit down and go, what made today crappy? You could, right? We have choices. Yeah, we could say, let's make a list of what the crap was today. Okay, and that's how you go to sleep, right? With going, today was crap. Or you could go, it's something I do every day. In the morning, I write down, today is going to be a great day. And at the end of the day, because I'm perceiving that, I can reevaluate that, and I start to think in the modality of what worked today, what made me happy today, what brought me joy, what made me laugh. So actually, getting back to what I want to share, what I was talking about before we started, I was like, oh, let's tell a story on the podcast. So I was telling you how silly Rosie is. I mean, just literally silly, like just ridiculously like childlike silly, right? Even though she can be very responsible, obviously, and she's a caretaker too. Okay, so in the last couple of weeks, like there's been a cockroach or two has been popping up in our place, right? Which is obviously off-putting. So we're working on that. But the yesterday morning, so I go to bed early and she goes to bed late, and she got to bed at 3 a.m. and she said, actually, no, let's do 2 days ago. 2 days ago, she said she got in the morning. She's like, I saw one, I couldn't kill it. So the next day, 2 days ago, she shows me a video, okay, where she has her phone. And then she has the shoe, right? So like she's a documentarian trying to kill this roach, right? And she didn't kill it. And it's really funny, right? And I told her, I go, well, there's a good reason why you didn't kill us. Like, because you're holding the phone. Like you got to, it's a thing, So in that idea, the next night, she wakes me up at 3 a.m. and she said, I killed it. It's there for you. I need you to take care of it. Okay. So I know this, I go back to sleep. So I wake up in the morning, I go into the kitchen. On my coffee maker, there's this little sticky note that says, like, I killed the cockroach. There's this little picture, right? And she says it's by the fan, right? And then I look over to the fan, and then there's a note on the wall. It says, the body is here. This little thing with an arrow down. Oh my God. And there it is, dude. It was like a little treasure map to a dead cockroach.
That's fun.
Isn't that just some silly shit? You know what I mean? Like, dude.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm a silly man myself, and it took me a long time to deal with being able to take care of pests too. I used to do things similarly. Both my wife and I couldn't handle pests, so we were both sort of like trying to egg each other on with sort of like we'd hide it, we'd like put it in like a container and say, all right, you take care of it. It's like we'd only halfway do the job each time. Took a long time.
Yeah, I don't like them either, but anyways, that's just the silly, so what I'm writing, I'm starting these gratitude sticky things. I got my wall, I'm building my gratitude wall. And this morning I wrote down, Rosie's, treasure map to the cockroach's body, just like, that's just a memory I want to remember because it's fun and it brings me joy, and that's like, even, since we talked in last year, because I've talked to so many people, I've learned so much more about a gratitude practice, which is amazing, right? Because you would think a lot if you keep, but honestly, it's like, it's great to write down, I'm happy, say, for a clean kitchen, but like memories, you know what I mean? Like or you say like, I'm grateful for coffee, right? Like say grateful for coffee. That's a great idea, but why am I grateful for coffee? You know, so speaking in that vein, like you start to build in memories, right? So like, why am I grateful for Rosio, right? Well, she's silly. What's a memory of her being silly? That's a memory of being silly. That's gratitude.
Wow, that's actually great. That's really great to put that into practice in such a day-to-day way. I like to think of gratitude for my wife in the bigger things, and that does help for sure. But I think I would benefit from getting a little more granular too. Like just remembering like the simple moments at the end of the day that made me happy that include her.
For sure, man. What are what are some of the things in the big way that you're grateful for your wife?
Well, like you said, Rosio, Mindy's the caretaker. I mean, I'm well. We're both caretakers because we're both parents. But when it comes to the essentials of getting the household managed and running, that's something that she has a better mind for. I'm good at doing the footwork. Like she'll like print out the orders and I can follow. But when it comes to like keeping a higher mind of everything that we need to keep track of, I'm terrible with that. So she makes sure that we don't go without. There are things that if I was held in charge of, we wouldn't be able to handle. Just this morning, I'm making breakfast for my daughter and lunch because she's going to school. So I'm doing all of it at once, and I'm packing everything. And I've spent a good amount of time doing that. And as I'm finishing, I'm like, wait a minute, Mindy, do I have everything in the bag? Because even though I just spent all that time doing it, I trust her more to remember what's missing than me. And so she keeps tabs on us in every capacity in that way. So I'm so grateful that she's able to like facilitate life. I mean, keeping things working and functioning. But that's the big picture. Yeah, there's
Right.
lots of. But yeah, when you're in a marriage, it's easy to forget. You get like you were saying how earlier, when you get wrapped up in the things that you might want or the things that you're focused on aren't gratitude. It helps to bring you back so that you don't stewing in that what hasn't or what you want
Right.
instead of what could be is and is there all the time.
Right. It's obviously nice to want things and pursue things, but at the same time, if that pursue and want takes you out of the moment and doesn't allow you to appreciate what you have, that's where the problem is. And that's just the constant reminders. That's what gratitude in a practice does. It allows you to continually remember that you've got a lot of really great things going on for you. Since we talked, I interviewed a New York Times bestseller named Hector Garcia. He has a book called Itchy Go Itchy. It's a freaking awesome book. But I asked him he lives in Tokyo. He's a guy from Spain that lives in Tokyo. Anyways, very, very cool guy. But I asked him, I said, what does like gratitude mean to you? I was like, if you're going to explain gratitude to a child, what would you say? And the great thing about him was like nothing he was saying was like written down. Like he was always looking up like this because you could see he was actually thinking. It was like he was, nothing was canned. And he said this really beautiful thing that really hit me really well. He said, gratitude. This is what I think. He said, when you're focusing on one thing that's not working, one thing that's upsetting you. He said, gratitude is when you have the realization that there are 99 things that are working for you. And what I did for me is it painted a picture of me. It literally, when I was hearing him talking, I was thinking, this is what gratitude is. And I was like seeing the back of the head, right? I was like, it's when you're staring at the one thing that's not working and you decide just to turn your head this way. I was just like, and speaking to that whole thing about, and that's usually when we get caught up, right? I can't speak to everyone's problems or everyone's situation, but usually we get fixated on one thing that's not working and it destroys us in that day and that moment. It takes us out of our life. Because we're just going down say it could be a worry wormhole or a whatever, right? But it's that idea of the realization going, okay, I am looking at this, but I can look over here. You know what I mean? Like it's that tilted perspective that allows you to bring you back and ground you into what is real, not this individual thing is not your life, right? The problem that's happening at that moment is not your life. It's a momentary thing. And it's just a really powerful image came to mind when we were talking.
Yeah, no, I love that. I haven't thought of it. I've been on 9 things that are going well for me, but there probably are, if not more, at any given moment. But whenever I see something that disheartens me in the world, it always puts me in a place to remember that I'm so fortunate that I'm able to look at whatever terrible things happening in the world and to know that, I haven't been personally affected by it, and that I should be very thankful for that. And whenever it's weird, whenever I watch news, it usually makes me feel good, not because there's terrible thing in the world, because I know the terrible things in the world there's always going to be, but to think
Right.
that I'm fortunate enough to avoid it for another day makes me very
Mhm.
happy. So uh, I have friends
Mhm.
who avoid the news because it brings them to a dark place. Like, this is happening here, this is happening there. Like, yeah, that's good to know about that stuff because it'll make you feel more grateful for what you do have.
I love that, man. That's I've never heard anybody speak about the news like that. That's brilliant, brother. I love that. I really do, sincerely. It's the idea of like you're grateful for the toothache you don't have. To
Yeah,
say, you know what I mean? Like, and
yeah,
that's and what you and what the new and even though the news can be very negative, if you're looking at it and through a gratitude process, you're like, well, this is going on in the world. Obviously, we know bad things happen, but I'm grateful that what I'm seeing right now is not touching me. That's a really
right.
healthy. So what the news then becomes is it becomes part of a practice to appreciate your life, and that my brother is really powerful. It's
Yeah,
like that because the news that literally means you could sit down every day because there's always something, right? For 10
it is.
minutes and you could use that to ground yourself. That's
But
brilliant, bro.
I mean, it helps, but it doesn't always help. The closer things get to home, to hit your heart, of course, you're going to be more invested and affected. You won't be able to look away with the same sort of cadence. But certainly, I have friends who stop watching the news, or every time they think about the news, all they can think about is how terrible it makes them feel. And I try to share that with them, but saying it doesn't make it easy as a practice. It's very hard to look at the pain of others and to just understand that that your life is better and to be grateful for that. A lot of people might think that's selfish, and to some extent, it is preservational. But I think gratitude in general is preservational. It helps you stay healthy in that sort of mental space. Something that I learned in practice in therapy, and I hope everyone considers therapy if they're not already in therapy. It's great for things like teaching gratitude. I went down this rabbit hole with you with gratitude, but I didn't talk to you every day, and I did always learn every time we did talk. But having that in your life is so important. Like, just working on it in every aspect of your life, really. So yeah, I picked up some of the gratitude practices that I picked up in learning to cope with my stressors in therapy. So for anyone who is working on themselves or has a hard time understanding gratitude, I'd say that's exactly how I got out of my emotional rabbit hole of depression.
Can you if you don't I mean I appreciate you sharing that. Could you speak to some more of the practices that you kind of picked up, if you wouldn't mind, just sharing a little bit more about that experience and some
Sure,
other
sure.
things you learned? Because I know there was a lot more there. So I love what you share, but I'd love if you wouldn't mind just giving a little more, man.
Yeah. Wow. So depression, it works in the opposite direction as gratitude. Depression is when you have X, Y, Z things bothering you, and you're focusing on only the negative instead of the positive. And so every day, instead of reaffirming the things that you're grateful for with depression, you're reaffirming all the things that make you upset, the things that make you not want to continue or not happy. And so, in part of my practice, I had to learn as a mindset adjustment that I could and do need to do these things for my own mental health. And at first, it was very difficult because it wasn't natural as someone who's always thinking about the negative to try to turn on the water on the other side of the faucet. And
Mm-hmm.
so, little by little, I got tepid. I cooled down my depressive waters, and was able to become more mindful, and started internally. Happy that something made me happy, like you were saying, listing off the things at the end of the day that make you happy. But doing those things throughout the day, little by little, allowed me to then see things that I was grateful for in a bigger sense. At first it's very about the self. It's a very personal gratitude, things that basically the world revolved around me. Gratitude, and I needed that, just because I didn't have that at all. I had to build that personal gratitude for myself, just so I can understand the concept of gratitude to move it on into a better practice. And the first thing that broke my mind recently in the past couple of years, and it happens every few years, you have like your epiphany like moment. But something that brought to my attention was radical acceptance. And radical acceptance is that when there is something difficult, you can try to fight it emotionally and get through the 99 things that are bothering you about that problem, or focusing on that one problem instead of the myriad of things that are also going on in your life. And you push it. You keep nagging it. You keep pushing around like the vegetables on your plate. You don't quite deal with it, but you just keep harping on the vegetables on your plate. Radical acceptance is, you eat those vegetables and you say, okay, maybe I don't like these vegetables, but you know what? I don't need to sit here and talk about how much I hate these vegetables either. And so once I stopped giving so much energy to things that made me unhappy, it really opened the floodgates to gratitude. Because worrying so much about the things that make you upset, as we started the conversation with, will keep you from being able to see those 99 other things that could make you happy. So that's the first thing in my practice that really was mind opening for gratitude. And then something that goes on day to day, something that I've been trying to do is coming up with, ongoing lists of things that I'm grateful for in particular aspects of my life, which I'm not as grateful for. Instead of focusing on the one aspect of a relationship which might be difficult or challenging, focusing on the more positive. You're talking about the things that Rocio does that make you smile, like her childishness and how effervescent that could be. There are aspects of every relationship to some extent, even the most difficult relationships in my life, which, to this day, I still struggle with the relationship with my mother. That's something we talked about for many years. We've come a long way, but there's still a lot of trauma and work to be done there. But I can only move forward in that relationship because I've been able to not harp and nag on the trauma.
Right. Well, I mean, speaking of what you're saying, it's like, again, like what we focus on grows, and what we get to just, back to like, what do you want to focus on, and whatever. It speaks, like, I really liked where you were coming when you started talking about depression. I started having another image in my head, which was like, when depression hits, it's almost like you're in a black room, or you're in a room with black wallpaper. Or whatever, right? Just a blank darkness, right? And and then I was taking like Hector's idea and almost thinking like, so all you're seeing is the black, right? All you're seeing is depression. We're just saying that color, we're just associating that color, right? So you're in a dark room with no color, and that's all you're feeling, because in all you're looking around, you're just continually getting that, right? Because that's all we're getting. But the idea of like stepping out of that, like you said, it would be almost like starting to peel that paint back, right? So you start peeling that paint back, and you start seeing these things you're grateful for. You start to realize that life is worth living, or there are people in your life that you love, or that your heart's beating, and that's a good thing, or that there's water. You know what I mean? Like you start to peel these things back, and eventually you hit a tipping point where one obfuscates the other. And then you at that moment, an individual can go to themselves, can actually feel like, I'm actually stepping out of depression. Like I've created, this room is not just depression in this room. This room is a flux of emotions, which is good, right? Because there's depression. Because I was even talking to a sobriety coach, he's like, if you're in a bad state, figure out what your emotions are. So for example, if the worst emotion you have is anger, or say it's fear, go, how do I get to anger? You know what I mean? Like, how do I get to sadness? Some people, you know what I mean? Like, these are just tier structures, right? Because you know what's worse for you and better for you. But it's like, if you can realize, so again, if we can go, okay, depression's like it's like a dark room. How do I paint this room? Every day I'm going to paint this room for 5 minutes by just thinking about some things I'm grateful for. Or it could be, I'm going to spend 1 minute just listing things I'm grateful for. This is my way of painting the room. You know what I mean? Because you know that if you do that over several weeks, it's going to have an effect on the whole room. You know, initially it's just going to give a little bit of light. It's going to go back in. But if you continually paint, gratitude's a way to paint that room back in the colors that are actually there. You know, it's almost like you're taking your glasses off. You're like your sunglasses off, and you're seeing the sun opposed to being in the shade of everything. So, so I really love what you're saying about depression. That's a really great metaphor, way to structure that whole idea. Because you know, I totally get depression too. So it's always I think everyone does, some more than others, but obviously we all have our own battles.
Yeah, I have to say that getting to the tipping point where I was able to have more moments of light than darkness was definitely eye-opening, and where I can see, oh, okay, well, if the glass can be half full, let me just stay on the half full side more. And actually, I used to be a full-on pessimist, and I was able to work my way up into realist, and I can even say optimistic in times now. I used to have a very closed mindset, and now I'm working on being more growth-minded, being able to be more positive, and all those things are connected. When I couldn't do any of those things when I was focusing on the depression. Really, when you focus on anything, it takes all of your attention, and so you can't do anything else besides those things. But breaking away makes it. You're talking about sobriety. I think depression has an addictive aspect of it, much like drugs or alcohol, where it's negative, it's destructive, but you will just sit in it and continue to do it because it's sort of numbing. It's the only way you know how to cope with it. Once you learn how to cope with it better, and you find that there are better ways to deal with it, you're able to work your way out of it. It's like exercise for your mind. If you can't do a single push-up, you're not very healthy. But if you do one push-up a little bit at a time, soon you'll be very healthy if you do it every day. And I love that image that you sent in my head of like the paint peeling off of like these walls and light shining through. I have to work for a pharmaceutical company one day, and I'm making that commercial because that's a seller right there.
Yeah, I was even thinking how just to, this imagery of, you only see 3 pictures, right? So you'd have a person in a dark space. Then you'd have like the second image would just be like one little square, right? That's light. And it could be an image of something. It could be a person. And then the next one is like a flux of where there's one black and there's a whole bunch of image. You know what I mean? Like you just have this 3-phrase, this phase type thing, which is just showing somebody that every day you're at it, it's back to that, it's the same idea of like every day you're okay. There's a great book called Atomic Habits, and it's really great. I've actually read it twice in the last 5 months. I really love the book. Superb book. Anyways, just letting you know and everybody else. But one of the things he said was, every day, this is with habits, right? So it's like every day you're voting towards something. Like there's a vote here, there's a vote there, period. That's it. So every day, if case in point, like, if you want to be healthy, there's a voting structure, right? So if you get up in the morning, you eat a donut, that's a vote towards unhealthy. If you get up and, I don't want to like speak to diet, but you get what I'm saying? Like depending on what you're eating, that's a vote. Getting up and moving around. So that could be exercise or just, that's a vote. You know what I mean? Reading, that's a vote because, you know what I mean? You get it, right? You can
totally.
even say bathing could be a part of that. I don't, what I mean? These are all votes. We're all day long, we are making decisions by voting by our actions, period, right? So it's like, that's the same idea with, if you're in a depressive state, basically what's happened is all your voting has been going towards this one thing that is obviously a spiral of negativity and things that upset you. And all day long is I'm just going, check, 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 check. You know what I mean? And that's what it is, because you're in that space. You wake up and you want to go back to sleep. You wake up and you think about these things. You're not happy with your life. You completely overshadow this one thing, which can be a big thing. It's overshadowing, again, the 99 things that are good, that are going right in your life. I like to speak to what I've been working on in my practice, like the last 3 months, is like, how do I ground myself in gratitude that's ever present, like daily, like things. How do I say it? It's like it's like the day to day, right? The things that you live with that you can take for granted very easily, and that's the problem. That's the situational problem is when we could. It's a good problem to have, mind you, when you've had it so good. You've got all these things that are working for you your entire life, right? That you don't think about. Now, that's a very nice place to be, but it's not a healthy mindset. So case in point, right? And I know I'm speaking to you, so I know you well enough. I don't think you've ever woken up and had to worry about what was in the refrigerator.
No.
The fact there's been food. How about this? We've never had to worry about there being a refrigerator.
Yeah.
Right? We never had to worry about being in a place to fill a refrigerator. We never had to worry about water running into the house, right? We've talked about this, right? Like these are just electricity, right? Like these are just, I was talking to somebody that helped. I did a birthday gratitude episode with a friend who helps people find homes, right? And she just was like speaking to, people that were homeless or people that are, and this, she just spoke to, she's like, you don't realize until you're sitting with somebody how amazing it is just to have a place with a lock that's yours. You know what I mean? Just to have 4 walls with a lock. Like, again, of course I don't, because I've always had it. But she's reminding me, like, what is that? I just think about, I've always had a place to live, right? Like, just the fact, you know what I mean? Like, that's because and that's something massive. Again, this is shit that we get every day that we completely overlook, because it's like we were born the king. Literally, we were born like kings, right? Like, we have all these things, but we just were born into them. We didn't, where did the appreciation come in? Because if you're just born with something, it's hard to appreciate it. So speaking to that idea, it doesn't mean you can't appreciate it. It just means you have to work to appreciate it. It means you actually have to put time in to appreciate these things, right? And it's not like it's a difficult thing. It's just something you have to decide to do. So one more case in point, and then I'll flip it back to you. Rosio and I, speaking just straight to Rosio, right? Like, we were in a long distance relationship for like 5 years, right? 5 years worth of days. I'm getting on this phone and we're doing video calls at night saying good night, right? This is how we were talking for like 5 years worth of days or so, right? Now she's here, right? And I don't want to forget that. You know what I mean? I don't want to forget that we did all that. I've been waiting for this, right? I wanted this, right? I really wanted her here, right? We did a K-1 visa. She wanted to be here. She left her whole family. She left her career. I don't want to forget that. And the only way I can not forget that is to remind myself daily. Okay. I think your video froze. Can you hear me, man? Lee, are you there, buddy? Oh, there you are.
Sorry, I dropped for a moment. I'm back.
Okay. So anyways, I was just finishing up at the very end there, just saying, like, I'm grounding myself in several things that are just ever present in my life now in the morning as part of my practice. Just so, again, like, I just don't want to forget, like, even you're speaking like having a car, right? It's the same idea, right?
That's a huge privilege.
Anyways,
the book I was talking to you about, the book I was talking to you about this morning, I was reading, touches on how the midlife crisis is something that was created in modernity. It's something that never existed before because people had too much to worry about before, including not living long enough to worry about, things like self-actualization or their reason for living or their purposes in life. Is always just like responsibilities, get those, live, try not to die.
Right.
So, a lot of the modern psychological problems that we have today are born from our privilege. So we wouldn't be able to focus. I have one of my closest friends was born in a third world country. He migrated to here when he was a teenager, and he's a very intelligent person. He teaches me more than anything because he's so well read. But on top of that, he's my friend who I go to for advice when I'm sometimes needing perspective. If I'm feeling really stuck in a rut or something, I'll go talk to him because not only will he have a history of me to know, what I've been through, but he also has his history, and that he was raised a Catholic in a third world country. He knows something but strife and pain growing up. So when he came to America and things were so much more lax in so many ways, he'll say to me, "Hey, just remember, these are things that we have, and yes, we can complain about this, but we still have this because of things that that I wouldn't have or we wouldn't have elsewhere." And it helps having his perspective, and not everyone has like a friend who was born a migrant who can talk to those difficulties, but still, those difficulties exist. We talked about this throughout this whole session, and if you focus on just those negative things, obviously you'll be stuck in a rut. But if you have gratitude for those negative things, or rather for those negative things you don't have to endure, it'll make it so much easier, to find those 99 things that are working for you. Totally.
Right. Get back to perspective, like you said with your friend. That's where it's at. We just need reminders of perspective. That's what gratitude is doing. It's allowing us to put perspective into where we're at, opposed to focusing on the one thing and go. It's so perspective based. And even speaking to like we're at and where you are now. It's a good self reflection to go, where was that 5 years ago? Where am I at now? What's working for me now? Who's in my life now? I've got a practice, I think I talked to you before, called Gratitude Cubed. It's where if you're sitting in a grateful state at the moment, you can look back and see everything and go, I'm okay. This happened, that happened, because I'm here now and I love myself. I am here now and I'm grateful. And I know that the bad, for example, my mom had to pass away. Otherwise we wouldn't be having this conversation right now. I mean, that's just a case in point thing. I think about, I wrote that letter to her, which, writing a gratitude letter is not magic, but what it can do is magic. It totally is, speaking of that letter we're talking today, that letter's in the book. That letter sparked the 50 something people to write for that book. That letter sparked the second book. This is probably around my 100th podcast. These are all conversations that sparked from just sharing gratitude and realizing that speaking about it and connecting with others can completely change the focus and can change the outlook on life.
Yeah. Is it the actual 100th? Can I claim that this is the centennial?
I'm
doing it. I'm saying it. It's mine. I'm the 100th episode.
I can look real quick here. I have to look again. That's a good question. Let's see here. I don't know if this will tell me. I'm looking at a dashboard quick here. So I'm gonna have to look really close to 100 though. We could just say it's 100. How's that sound? I'm
proud of you. You've put so much work into GratitudeSpace, and you've really made it grow. I have children, so I guess I've worked on them for the past 7 years, but I don't think I've done anything as extraordinary as what you've done with GratitudeSpace. I'm so proud of you. So 100 podcasts is just a drop in a bucket compared to the amount of work I've seen you put into it over the years, because I think your podcast is pretty young compared to the idea in general. So since its inception.
Thanks, brother. That means a lot, man. I appreciate it. I know that you got to get off here in a couple minutes. Just speaking, I thank you for saying that. And just speaking to the great thing about the podcast is, as soon as I started doing the podcast, because I was doing the written interviews, I just felt like I came out of the dark ages. Like I was walking around with 2 sticks, and now I had like audio and video to play with and like conversation. So it's like, obviously, I appreciate this format so much more because I did long form interviews for years.
Yeah. And I apologize because you asked me to help you with writing a letter for your first book. And I said I would, and I didn't. And I apologize, and I didn't get to apologize. But now you get to have it recorded. But I'm so glad I was able to participate. I've always wanted to participate, and I've always just, you're saying something about you make votes. And I didn't make those votes. And now I'm glad to be given a vote for Chris this morning.
Thanks, brother. Well, I'm going to close this up here. If you could hang out for 1 second so we can just kind of say goodbye. And does that sound good? Okay. Mm-hmm. Well, Happy birthday, Lee. It's been so great talking with you again. Like I said before, it's just an excuse. I love doing these because they're an excuse to connect with old friends. And I didn't mean if you didn't want to do this, I was wanting to get on a call with you either way. So, you know, it's cool that we could have a recorded conversation, but I'm happy either way. Just keeping that in mind.
I'm glad to share it with people. I'm glad to talk to you either way, but I'm even more happy to be able to do more.
Thank you, brother. Well, happy birthday. Well, I'm Chris with Lee, and that was the birthday gratitude episode, and we are